is the executive director from Liberty and Prosperity. I know you had a lawsuit against Atlantic City. We wanted to get an update on that. And, of course, a lot of our listeners have told me and from the bottom of my heart our condolences for the loss of your mother. And I know that a lot of us have gone through it. And God bless you and your family, Seth. But want to get an update on Atlantic City as well.
Well, thank you. Well, of course, the idea of the lawsuit was inspired several years ago. Here we're with Liberty and Prosperity .org. We meet every Saturday morning. We talk about Atlantic City. And, one of the things that kept coming up for the past couple of years, they kept talking about, well, Atlantic City has a deficit of $100 million a year, and Atlantic City is borrowing money to cover that deficit. And we're looking at the local budget law, which is the law that runs every one of the 600 towns in New Jersey and all the counties. And the law clearly says that every year, every single town, Ocean City, Upper Township, Lower Township, Bergen County, has to have a budget by March 20th of every year. And that budget must be what's called a cash basis budget, and which means that they must tax enough money to cover their expenses for the entire year. That law has been in effect for 60 years. There are actually cases in New Jersey where local officials have been indicted and sent to jail for not doing a budget on time or for spending money in excess of their budget, because that's the most important function of a local official. And we're reading this in the newspaper year after year, and we're wondering how the heck did this happen? So just for the heck of it, we filed a lawsuit against the city saying, here it is, it's April is when we filed our lawsuit, and there's no budget, and you're spending money without a budget, therefore let's enforce the law. We were astonished to find out that when we brought that lawsuit, the city official said, well, don't sue us. We haven't been running the city for 5 years. The state took us over in October of 2011. So go sue the state. And basically that's what we did. We found out that the state had sued the city of Atlantic City for not having a budget, for not having a cash basis balanced budget in October of 2011. They alleged gross violations of the law. As a result of the lawsuit brought by the state in 2011, the state took over Atlantic City finances. Now, here's where it gets astonishing. Since the state took over in October of 2011, the state has been ignoring the law more than the city did. And the state has not made a budget. Here it is. It's June 18th, and the budget due on March 20th hasn't even been written. The city is spending money illegally. We brought all this to the attention of the judge, and then the state officials said, well, you have to sue the state. There's improper state action, and if you were unhappy with unhappy state action, then you should be, they call it your administrative remedies. We should be taking part in the state determinations that allowed this illegal activity to go on. And here's where it gets even more astonishing, Arthur. We found out that there was no state action. It was the monitor who was doing all this stuff without any authority whatsoever. And after we brought that lawsuit, bingo, he decides he doesn't want to be the monitor anymore, and he quits. So that's where the lawsuit is right now, trying to get Atlantic City to follow the same law that every other city in New Jersey follows, a balanced budget and a budget by March 20th. That's part of it.
Now wait a second. Now, the plaintiffs in this case, they're Atlantic City residents, Atlantic County residents?
Right.
Who are the plaintiffs here?
There are four plaintiffs. There's one Atlantic City taxpayer, there are two Atlantic County taxpayers, and then there's the organization libertyandprosperity.org. So we just have the minimum number of people you need to have standing to be in court. And we do that because it's easier to manage fewer people in a lawsuit, fewer copies and so on. So that's what's going on. So that's half of the lawsuit. The other half of the lawsuit involves the idea that the casinos, the casino hotels, the people who pay 65% of Atlantic City taxes won't have to pay any tax hikes for the next 10 years. And this is astonishing because, as I pointed out, Atlantic City has been running without a balanced budget as required by law for the past 5 years. To make up the difference, the city, in my opinion, illegally borrowed some $450 million. That $450 million, according to Mayor Guardian, he wants to pay it back. And to pay it back, you need tax hikes. And now there's a state law. As soon as the mayor says we're going to pay it back with all these tax hikes to bail out these Wall Street bonds, the casinos say, we don't want to pay it. Well, if the casinos who pay 65% of the taxes in Atlantic City, they don't want to pay it. If the Walk, the Tanger outlets, they don't want to pay it. If the Bass outlets don't want to pay it. If the 10,000 people living in low-income housing units that don't pay taxes don't want to pay it, who are the people who are left paying this enormous tax hike? Basically 25% of the taxpayers of Atlantic City. So we're saying that's outrageous, and we're also suing to put it into that. And by the way, by not paying real estate taxes, the casinos aren't paying any county taxes either. And so that's why it affects every taxpayer in Atlantic County. What's going on is outrageous, and if the crooks in Trenton get away with this one, then they could do this anywhere in New Jersey. And and let's face it, Jim Whalen, the state senator, he's a part of it. Chris Brown, the Republican, he's a part of it. Vince Mazzeo, the Democrat, he's a part of it. Somehow the lawsuit is trying to enforce a constitution that is being defied by almost every representative of in the state. There are only about 10 or 12 courageous assembly members in the assembly, and only about I think 4 or 5 state senators voted against that outrage.
Are all pilot bills unconstitutional, Seth?
Well, let's talk what pilot means. We call it peanuts in lieu of taxes, and it's amazing. It just shows how we fell into this trap because I know we're limited with time, but brief history. At one time, New Jersey was so corrupt that the entire economy collapsed. You may know in your history books the Panic of 1837, where the state government, everybody who had a friend in Trenton would pay a different tax rate. The state was borrowing money. The economy collapsed. The whole country almost collapsed. And in 1844, New Jersey led the nation in getting out of this economic collapse with its Constitution of 1844. And the basic principles of that new Constitution were, number one, that everybody had to pay taxes equally, and number two, that the state could not borrow money without a vote of the people. Now, after World War II, the veterans came back and people said, the veterans saved our country. Let's give a tax break to veterans. So the Constitution said everybody pays taxes equally, but veterans get a break. And then if the farmers said, you know what, we're growing all the food for New Jersey, and we can't afford these taxes. So give a break to the farmers. And next thing you know, the Constitution says everybody pays taxes equally, but veterans get a break, and then farmers get a break. And then senior citizens got a break. And then real estate developers saying we're trying to develop these areas in blighted areas. So blighted area developers got a break. And that's how you got the payment in lieu of taxes for the Walk. And then people said we need affordable housing. So affordable housing got a break. And so you have 4,500 units of housing in Atlantic City don't pay taxes. So that's 10,000 voters in Atlantic City don't pay taxes. So that's how you got into the mess that we got into. And at some point, we're going to get out of the mess. There's going to be a collapse because when you have 60 to 70% of the taxpayers of Atlantic City don't pay taxes, and then you have the poor Irish pub and the laundromat and the store and the boardwalk trying to pay the taxes, it's going to collapse. And people are not going to get paid. Employees won't get paid. And we always call Atlantic City the canary in the coal mine because what makes the rest of New Jersey sick is killing Atlantic City. And so in a way, we're a warning to the rest of the state. So that's what our lawsuit's all about. And I'm sorry I wandered off a little bit, but we need your help. I'm hoping people will come to our breakfast at 9:30 this morning. We meet every Saturday morning at the Shore Diner by Parkway Exit 36 in front of the Days Inn, Tilton and Fire Roads. we urge everyone to go on our libertyandprosperity.org website and sign up for our email updates and to make a small contribution so we could put radio spots on programs like yours and get the word out. And we especially invite anyone who's randomly down from Cherry Hill or from up in North Jersey or in Mount Holly or anywhere there, come into our Saturday morning breakfast, because you'll find out that what is going to hurt your town tomorrow is killing Atlantic City today. We say what happens to America happens to Atlantic City first.
Seth Grossman with us, Executive Director from Liberty and Prosperity. A couple of minutes left till Rick's news at the top of the hour. Seth, you're a former elected official in Atlantic City and Atlantic County. How does Atlantic City get out of this? What would be the Seth Grossman plan to get out of this mess?
Well, it's funny because the answer is so obvious. To get Atlantic City out of the mess, find out what built Atlantic City in the first place. And what built Atlantic City in the first place is small government giving people the freedom to do whatever they wanted to do. So in Atlantic City, when they built that first railroad in 1854, the people who built Atlantic City were far-sighted enough to say, when Pitney and Richards built that railroad and they owned all the land of Atlantic City, they didn't say, well, we're going to decide what goes here and we're going to decide what goes there. They said, okay, we're going to carve the city into lots, we're going to sell them off, and people are free to do whatever they want to do. So you would have a church next to a whorehouse, next to a saloon, next to a cultural center. Whatever people wanted, people could do. People were allowed to get the permits they needed to build. You had a guy called like George Hammond, who was a penniless teenage acrobat, from some Arab country, a persecuted Christian. He was juggling on the beach. Next thing you know, he's owning the steel pier. I mean, this is the marvelous, freedom we had. So in a way, Atlantic City was built the way America was built, by people being free to do what they wanted, very low taxes for years in Atlantic City, free to keep the money that you earned. It would be people, renting rooms in their house. I know when my parents moved to Atlantic City, we moved into the basement every summer. We rented out the rooms upstairs. And then many other, my dad was a dentist, so, when we made it, we just lived upstairs year round. But others would buy a roomy house next door and turn it into a hotel and turn it into a restaurant. So that's what we need. Right now, everybody sits back and says, okay, I need the government to give me a tax break. I need the government to give me a loan. I need to get the government to give me a permit, and then I need the government to make sure nobody else gets the same permit I got, so I have a monopoly. It's an outrage. So basically, liberty created prosperity in Atlantic City. That's the New Jersey state motto. And this government planning and control and taxes are killing Atlantic City. So we need a bankruptcy to wipe out the debt, have low taxes again, and then give everybody a permit to do whatever they want to do. And that's the key to America, and that's the key to Atlantic City.
And Seth Grossman has been with us. Join him this morning at 9:30, the Saturday morning breakfast discussion at the Shore Diner.
Right. There's no fee. You just come, order off the menu, tip the server. And if you can't make it to the breakfast this Saturday, just go online at libertyandprosperity.org, and maybe you can make it with us next Saturday.
Absolutely. We appreciate Seth coming on the air with us. And if anybody attends that meeting, tell them that you heard them on the radio this morning. Let them know that you're listening to this very important radio broadcast. And good luck with the lawsuit, Seth. And
perfect timing. Listen to the King Arthur program as you're driving to the Shore Diner for libertyandprosperity.org.
I was even going to say, sneak your phone into the meeting at 9:30 because we're on till 10, but it's okay.
We'll do what we can.
All right,
Arthur, thank you so much for the time.
All right, thanks so much. Executive Director, Liberty and Prosperity, Seth Grossman. Rick Brancadora next with the news. We have Assemblyman Russ.